Save the city or catch your greatest enemy. You can't do both.
I'm sorry, what did you just say?
You can't do both, I said.
No, I mean the other thing.
Save the city or catch your greatest enemy.
You think you're my greatest enemy?
Yes! You're obsessed with me!
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are! Who else drives you?
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes. It's time for the second episode of This Week at Batman. Obviously here with me is my good friend Josh McDonald from BatmanNews.com, also PopByCulture.com. How you doing, Josh?
I'm doing well, Wes. How are you?
I'm doing great. We had a lot of stuff happen in Batman. We're going to talk about this upcoming event. Apparently events are leading into events once again. Much like the Marvel method that's been trickling over into DC Comics, we'll also hit the news of how many Batman comics are going to be coming out in November. Is it healthy? And then we'll talk about Batman Catwoman. We'll talk about Nightwing and then also Catwoman as well. And perhaps Josh will give his thoughts on Secret Files Clownhunter if we have any time at the end.
Yeah.
Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right, so we got Fear State coming up, and we found out through the solicitations that this is going to be leading into another Batman event called Shadow of the Bat, I believe it is called. Batman is going to be Shadows.
They threw an S in the end there.
Bruce Wayne and Batman are going to be vacating Gotham. We've never seen this before. He's never left Gotham to let his understudies, patrol the city and potentially fight it out to see who could take over the cow. Yeah, this is all new, all different, right?
All new, all different. Never happened before. Not once. Don't read Batman comics from 1994. Don't read Batman comics from 1997. Don't read them from 2009. Don't read them from 2015. Just leave them out. And then it never happened.
Me personally, I'm a fan of Battle for the Cow from Tony Daniel. One of the better writing experiences I've ever gotten with Tony Daniel. And the art's fantastic.
The art's fantastic. I didn't mind the story. I thought the story was solid. It was definitely one of those bridge stories. Like, it's not necessarily a standalone, complete, here's your full story. It bridges into the whole opening up of Batman and Robin and Dick taking the cow and Damian stepping up as Robin, which it sets up an incredible run, and it's a good start. It's a good opening chapter.
So apparently Fear State is just, as you mentioned right there, a bridge into Shadows of the Bat, which will be whoever's the new Batman writer. I wonder if they're going to do kind of the Marvel method where they're going to have 5 different writers on Batman until the permanent one comes in. But I don't know. That feels like a lot of bad events. We came out of the pandemic. We went right into Joker War. We've got Fear State right here, and we're going right into another event.
Yeah, Joker War I greatly disliked. I do have some hope for Fear State because I think James Tynan's going to try to end with an exclamation point. So I think he's really going to kind of give it his all. I enjoyed this last issue that he did. So for me, it's promising. And he's got a lot of plot threads that he needs to wrap up. So I think Fear State could actually be a lot of fun and really good. That's my hope anyways. I'm
on board for a Batman Halloween themed mini event.
Yeah.
Although this one doesn't feel mini.
No.
But if they just did something for 1 month with all the Batman books, I think that would be kind of fun.
Oh, agreed.
But this will be a bit bigger. I have event fatigue. I have event fatigue at Marvel. I'm getting event fatigue for DC. They're not nearly as bad as Marvel, but I don't know. You can only do so many Batman events before the law of diminishing returns. You can only have Bruce vacate Gotham so many times it becomes completely ridiculous and it means nothing anymore. There's got to be a new story to tell with Batman in Gotham.
Yeah, there's got to be. Don't ask me. I'd have to plan something. It's hard. Batman's been around for 80 plus years. There's a lot of stories that have been done, and I think too many writers are trying to. We've talked about this before. They're trying to tap back into old stories. Retouch that well again, and I think they would be more successful of just saying, what's a reality for Batman in this world that we live in, quote unquote. Not saying make it super realistic that everything connects to current politics or dramas that we're actually seeing, but just the generalization and idea of it. But yeah, Tynan in particular, and part of the reason I haven't liked his run is he has just kind of recreated so many things that have happened, and he hasn't done them nearly as well. And I'm hoping Fear State will be different. I feel like he's been planting some seeds, but we'll have to see. As far as Shadows of the Bat, I'm not excited because it's going to be, Batman leaves, his allies have to step up, and then they're going to get overwhelmed, and Batman has to come in to save the day. which is just tired at this point.
And when he comes in to save the day, Harley Quinn will have to come in and save him.
Yeah. Well, if Tynan were writing, absolutely. So
how many times did she save Batman now? Like 80?
Man. Well, in the Ghostmaker arc, I think she saved him like 4 times. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, how many times is he going to be passed
2 or
out?
3 times during Joker. Well, 3 times.
Yeah.
The 2 times when he was incapacitated, and the once when Joker was going to kill him on the rooftop.
Yeah, look, that alone was part of the reason I was cussing like a sailor while reading those issues, and then would have to calm myself down before I went and wrote a review.
Well, speaking of Batman, we did get the November solicitations that gave us kind of the preview of Shadows of the Bat, and when we get into November, 56% of all titles are going to be Batman related. They aren't led by Batman himself; they're going to be led by Batman associated characters. You love Batman. I do. I like Batman. Maybe not quite as much as you, but enough's enough. Like, you can, that's a lot of Batman titles. That's over 40 new Batman comics in 1 month.
It's way too much fucking Batman. You have to look at it this way too. When they started the new 52, they had 52 titles. That was the thing. We're always going to have 52 titles. And people were saying it's way too much. It's way too many titles. And we're now going to have more than that featuring Batman. Like, it's freaking insane. Way too much. And you get into the logistics of, even if you have people that love Batman, we talked about this before, you don't know which titles you should buy. You're not going to be able to afford to buy all of them. You're going to let some go. Comic shops don't have the space to try to showcase everything that they want to showcase. So you're just, you're kind of losing money at that point. And then you're just running through stories and kind of going to create fatigue for a character that, you could just run with for another couple of decades probably, but we're going to kill it quickly.
It's crazy. There are only so many Batman stories to tell. You can only transfer them to Europe so many times, and eventually you just run out of ideas there too. So, yep. And then the other problem is, Batman is the featured character. He's the flagship for the entire comic book industry. And they're having to really start scraping the bottom of the barrel and start giving some creators that probably, in my estimation, haven't really earned an opportunity to write their own Batman miniseries at this point. It's really, I guess if you write the Batman screenplay, you get, a featured Black Label Batman book with Andrea Sorrentino. Who wouldn't want that? So it's crazy.
Look, if we're being honest, I would rather read that than a Stephanie Phillips Batman book, and she is writing Legends of the Dark Knight, and it was not great. So it's bottom crazy. Of the barrel scraping. Look, Stephanie Phillips might be an excellent writer, but they're just not giving her anything to work with. So if she is good, it's never going to come through, which is a shame for her, because if she is talented, she's going to end up doing so much crap leading up to this that she's going to be viewed as a crappy writer.
The reputation's
oh man, yeah.
I liked her first issue of Future State Harley, but she ended it bad. But it's hard to do a complete story in 2 issues for writers in current comics.
Agreed. Yeah. And, I'm showing some bias here. I'm not the biggest Harley fan, so that probably plays into my dislike for her Harley book as well.
I've just tried to avoid that. There's so much Batman out there, you can't avoid her. If you read Batman, you get plenty of Harley Quinn these days.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. What I will say about the oversaturation of Batman is we are very lucky at Batman News that we get advanced review copies of books, and all of us on the side
keep up with it.
Oh, we know. And there are literally books that we will sit down and be like, I don't want to read this. And we're getting it for free. That's bad, man. I should be excited. I should be like, hell yeah. Even if it's just okay. But so much stuff is just so terrible at this point that I'm like, it's not worth my time. So that's a shame. And I wish DC would kind of assess it from that perspective and how much they're releasing and who they're having create these stories.
I know exactly how you feel. Yeah. I know I have to review this week, but I just don't want to do it. It's but hey, it's part of the life, I guess. So we are getting an enormous amount of Batman in the future, and we already have an enormous amount of Batman. This is this week we have 4 Batman comics. We'll talk about 3 of them in depth. And speaking of bad Batman, we've got a Tom King Clayman Batman Catwoman. I think it's number 6. The art in this comic is absolutely divine. I feel so bad for Clayman. Yeah, he's like a wonder, and just to be bogged down with this shitty writing. Batman Catwoman, in my estimation, has not been a very good series the entire time. It's been better than a lot of Tom King stuff recently, but this is the worst issue. Like, this was like nothing happening. Okay, well, the only good thing I can point out, I guess, Tom King has decided Selina Kyle gets the Bruce Wayne treatment and looks like a piece of crap because she's just kind of screwing him over left and right in this entire book.
Yep. I am also not a fan of this book so far. I think part of my problem with it is it should have been released as a graphic novel. How they have it structured as a monthly release, it's hard to read and get into. So my opinions might change when I get to read the whole thing in one sitting. But for this issue in particular, like, yeah, for me, they pretty much make Selina irredeemable. She's always towed that line of being good and bad, you know, and she flirts with bad but never crosses a line. And she does multiple things in this issue that for me just crosses a line. And there's one point where she's aware that there is Joker has planted a bomb under a skating rink, and she's hesitating to tell Batman about it. And I'm like, She does, thankfully she does. But even the fact that she hesitates to tell him, like, royally pissed me off, because I'm like, she's not inherently evil. She just makes some questionable decisions, but that is leaning towards inherently evil. And like you said, she turns on Batman like 2 or 3 times in this issue. It's a load of
she's having a Christmas celebration with Joker, you know, making jokes about him, and they're decorating a tree, which was so annoying. It had so many of the bad tropes that Tom King's known for. We've got some Christmas music being played the entire time. She actually knocks him out in front of Phantasm so they can go and find the Joker. We also get Granny Camel Toe in this one, as we get old lady Selina Kyle in a superhero pose with her crotch right in the middle of the page. It was awful.
I just want to know why. Like, why? Of all the costumes to pick to put her back in, why are you going to have geriatric Selina Kyle get that old classic, like, unitard with a cape costume? Like, also, and not that I want to see this, but she's like clearly wrinkly, right? Because she's old, but her legs were super firm. And me reading it, I'm like, why are her legs like they should be wrinkly? Not that I want to see it, but it threw me off. Like, the whole thing, like the book I was already sour on the book, and that ruined it for me. I was like, dear God, please. So
Tom King is known for filler, and this is absolute filler in my opinion. Like
100%. You mentioned his tropes, and when I reviewed Batman and he was doing it, it's one of the things that bugged me, because in a lot of ways, I think Tom King is an excellent writer, and in a lot of ways, I think he's a terrible writer. And I think he's fallen on these crutches of using different writing tropes and writing techniques that if you use them like infrequently, if you just pepper them in here and there, it works well. But when you use them constantly, it's terrible. And I think it's 3 issues in a row he's had like Christmas songs pretty much.
I think it's been every issue so far.
It might be. It might.
I think it has been with that Joker, her, and like the modern time story.
Yeah. I think you're right, because even that first issue, Selena's in the car listening. Yeah. It's just old at this point. Like, find something else to do.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Clayman, I think, is this his last issue before Liam Sharp takes over for at least the next 3, right?
I think so. And I know there's been a lot of,
I believe.
Yeah, I know there's been a lot of questions about, you know, why is he taking over? And I honestly don't know.
Okay. I don't know either. I reached out to a couple people and I got nothing back.
Yeah. So I know that Clayman had back issues before, and that was part of the reason they had to delay or get some fill-in artists for Heroes in Crisis. So I don't know if that's coming in, if it's a health thing or back issues. I wish him the best. If it's not, I think
I was under the impression Heroes in Crisis was supposed to be 6 issues, and when it got stretched out to 9, they had to bring in 3 art. They had to make 3 like fill-in issues. That's why it felt so weird.
We could do probably an entire live stream about how I think Heroes in Crisis changed, because what they started promoting it as and what we had interviews with them about, or they had presentations, like press presentations about at Comic-Con, was so different than what we actually got when the book started releasing. So
let's do that next week.
Okay.
We could definitely do that. I definitely want to look back at Heroes in Crisis, because you're right. A lot of things change. Like what the book even starts as, what you receive at the beginning after 2 or 3 issues, and what happens by the end is like, this is completely unrelated.
Yeah.
But the big question, I guess, is, Josh, how does Tom King get to work with all these amazing artists? Eventually they have to realize his stories suck.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, look, I think part of I think there's a couple of things. We have to, as much as we hate on Tom King, we have to remember that he's done some really excellent work, especially earlier in his career. If you haven't read Omega Man, it's great. Vision's great. I know some people don't like Mr. Miracle. I liked it. The book Sheriff of Babylon is probably one of my favorite things he's done. Grayson, which he co-wrote with Tim Seeley, is also excellent in my book. So he had like a string of just wins. He's
got a Swamp Thing one out there too. That's like near
the special. Even his Batman annuals were some of the best annuals I've ever read. So he is a good writer. I think he gets good artists because he approaches artists with the idea of, what do you like to do? How do you like to do it? And he writes the scripts in a way that gives them freedom to become storytellers as well. And I think that's why he gets good artists. But unfortunately, his stories overall lately have just been trash.
Yeah, he's fallen on so many tropes. So we could do an entire Tom King video. I want to get into that. There are a couple of other comics we got to talk about. This week we got the latest edition of Nightwing. I think it's 83. I might be wrong on that one. But it's Tom Taylor, Bruno Redondo. Mm-hmm. And we pick up kind of where we left off last time with Dick Grayson, with his sister Melinda Zuko. He's woken up. And it's so weird that they're just talking there because literally they tried to murder him. Like they bashed him in the back of the head and knocked him out. Like he could be concussed. He could have a brain injury. And he's acting like nothing's wrong. And they're kind of getting ready for Blockbuster to come in. And this part's actually pretty good before the story goes completely downhill.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, his entry into her apartment was definitely interesting. I think it was there more so for a swerve than anything else in the previous issue. But now that we're, expanding on their story as brother and sisters and how they're related, that swerve kind of doesn't make sense. And yeah, the buildup in this issue was good. The weird thing I'm having with this issue is it almost feel like it was a forced into this 6-issue run as far as an arc goes. So they try to just kind of like, let's answer this, piece about him and his sister, and then let's set up something else that kind of feels like some type of closure, which gets us into the back half of the book with Nightwing being a billionaire, his thoughts on billionaires and what he does with his money, which I'm
First
sure.
Off, the thoughts on billionaires. He grew up with a billionaire.
Yeah.
Like his surrogate father's a billionaire, and now we know that Alfred was a billionaire. And he thinks like every billionaires are kind of worthless. Nobody should have that much money.
Yeah.
And even if I agree with him, his perspective on it would be different than me because he grew up with a billionaire.
Oh, yeah.
Two of them.
It's kind of like, I don't know. It's a weird stance for him to have because of the situation that he grew up in. Because also, there's a huge history of Batman or Bruce Wayne doing incredible things with his money. And you could always make the argument, yes, he could have done more or less, whatever. But, there is a power to having money. And he kind of writes it off as just being a bad thing. And it can be a good thing. Now, are there billionaires that do, crappy things with their money and could do something better? Perhaps. It's also their money. They can do what they want with it. If you want to encourage billionaires to do better things with their money, I think that's good. But to say that you're a bad person because you're a billionaire, like that's just a crappy take to have.
And what's the point of giving Dick Grayson all this money just so Tom Taylor could show you what he would do if he had $1 billion? It doesn't feel like Dick Grayson at all. It feels like Tom Taylor speaking to us for the last 10 pages of the book.
Very much so. I definitely think Tom Taylor's projecting here. And I want to be careful on how I say this because Dick Grayson decides to take his money and give it all away to build pretty much a shelter to make sure people aren't homeless and they're fed and you can set them up. And I think that is very much a Dick Grayson thing to do. It's how he does it and how he speaks to it that doesn't feel very Dick Grayson. Like Dick Grayson's always wanted to help people. He's always gone out of his way. Like that's why he's a fan favorite character. But to have this whole press conference and talk about how bad billionaires are and they need to do more with their money, and because having money is bad, he's given like that whole stance I did not like at all. It felt untrue. Like you said, it felt more Tom Taylor than Dick Grayson.
And he lays out all the stuff that he's going to solve.
Yep.
And here's the weird thing, and Dick Grayson would know this. You can throw all the money in the world at a problem, it's not going to solve it.
Yeah.
It takes a lot more than that. And for a character like Dick Grayson to not understand that is absolutely unbelievable. And when he lists off all the stuff that he's going to, handle and take care of and everything, it's like, we get it, Tom Taylor. These are all the things that you find important.
Yeah.
Stop projecting them through the character. You can handle all these things and they can all feel like they came from Dick Grayson, like an idea of his, and he wouldn't have needed $1 billion to handle these things. if he really wanted to tackle him. But it's a comic book. This is an action, medium. Like, I don't really buy Nightwing to see him tackle homelessness.
Oh yeah, no. And if you go back to the Nightwing issue 2, it's like they definitely hinted at this.
Yes,
but
that was the worst issue before now.
Man. But this whole, like, I'm going to buy everyone food. It's kind of what you're saying. Just throwing money at a problem is not going to fix it. And Nightwing should know better than this. And it's kind of a shame that even Tom Taylor's writing it as, well, if I throw money, I'm going to solve this problem. You're not. You're just going to unfortunately create more problems. Because some of these people that are homeless, the book kind of comments on this, but some of these people that are homeless, they personally just need help. Like, they're not capable of doing anything. So if you just give them money and give them a place to stay, they're still not in a good place. It was just a weird direction. And unfortunately, a sour, quote unquote, ending for this story that doesn't even feel like an ending. Like, it just feels like a blip. It was a
big disappointment for me. So I wouldn't recommend personally either of those.
No.
But there is one Batman comic book. Oh, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, if you love art, both issues are worth it for the art. Clayman, Bruno Redondo, they're excellent artists. But other than that, story is just not worth it.
Nah. But we will get into the last comic. We're going to kind of go in depth. And I would definitely recommend this one. Catwoman. I can't remember the number on this one, but this is Ram V. Blanco's on art with, I think, Jordi Belair on colors.
It's going to be Catwoman number 34. Okay,
it wasn't what I thought. This one's really good. It's continuing the Alleytown story until we get into Fear State. We've got, was it Father Valley, I believe, is the villain. Some really cool twists and turns here. There's only one down moment. It is kind of at the beginning where Bruce and Selina decide to make out on a rooftop. That one, just keep the two characters apart from each other for a while. Yeah. It would do them both some good.
I personally, I really enjoyed this issue. I've been singing Ramvy's praises on this book for a while now. I'm also with you in the opening scene with Batman and Catwoman. I didn't really care for because it just screamed like forced by editorial that we have to include this just to kind of remind fans they're taking a year break, but they might get together.
They're still necking on the rooftops.
Pretty much. And as much as I didn't like it because it felt forced, I thought Ramvy handled it well. That's part of the reason I'm loving this book is he clearly has a story that he's wanting to tell, and he's got those plot threads in there. And he's kind of taken whatever editorial's throwing at them. And if you ever read my reviews on BatmanNews.com, you'll see that I talk a lot about, work your story, find a way to make it make sense. And you can tell he works his stories. He'll take whatever comes in and be like, okay, realistically, how does this get included? How can I work it into the story that makes sense? And because he takes time to do that, you have a good cohesive narrative that you can actually enjoy. And that is from Catwoman.
We get an earned moment here. He's been building to this essentially since he came on with this Detective Hadley, I believe his name is. You can tell he's got something for Selina. Mm-hmm. Bruce is aware of it, and he realizes that this man is no threat.
Yeah,
he is not concerned in the least. He's, he's the best friend that has a crush on your girlfriend, right?
Yeah,
like whatever, dude. Like have fun with that. And we get the kind of lead up into this big event. And we get I think it's Father Valley and Catwoman are having this big kind of epic sword fight. He's quoting some scripture at her. And it feels like she's not going to win. She takes like a sword to the thing or whatever. And we find out he's had the upper hand the whole time. He's got this machine gun that zoned in on her sister. It's got the crosshairs right on her forehead. And he's got a button. He's going to fire it. But at the same time, Hadley knows that something's happening. He's going to warn the sister. And we kind of build up to this big event. It was very exciting when we get there. And my goodness.
Yeah, once this story really started building, especially this issue. The pacing kind of increased, and then your suspense kind of built with each page. I love Father Valley as a villain. It's probably one of the best villains that's been created recently. If you haven't been reading the book, I'll just say he has ties to the Order of St. Dumas, or Dumas, however you want to pronounce it. But for me, Dumas. I think he's a great threatening villain. And for so far, I think he's going to be up there with the Catwoman Rogue Gallery villain as like Black Mask. So that's a huge praise. But I love the fight between the two because you always know Selina's sly and will try to think of ways to get the upper hand. And as you're reading it, you think that's what's happening, and then you find out no, Father Valley is still 2 steps ahead of her. And then when you find out what his real intentions are and how he is really trying to hurt Selina, it's a little shocking. And then how everything unfolds is even more shocking. So I was surprised. I love the ending of this book. I wish I had the next issue to read right now.
Absolutely. But it's an earned moment. We don't get a lot of these in comic books where they worked it.
No.
Like you worked it for 6 months and then you got the payoff. Once you start building up a little interest, oh, I kind of care about what's going on here. And like, oh my goodness, now you're taking the character away. That's how you do it. It's impactful.
I would even say they've been building to this for a little more than 6 months, because I think they introduced Father Valley before Future State ever happened. So they kind of set his character up in the background.
Catwoman 25?
Yeah, actually, I think it was.
Yeah.
So
that special one Ram V did with, I think there was 4 stories in there.
Yeah, so I think you've had like 8 months now of him kind of being in the background and playing his roles and slowly stepping up to dominance. And it wasn't, I feared that this issue was going to be a quick end for his character and then they would move on, and it's not. I'll just kind of throw that out there. So I'm really excited to see where else they take it.
Absolutely. I really enjoy this. I'm upset that it's being interrupted by Fear State.
Yeah.
And I will give it some praise, as you said, as far as a new villain. And we've got a lot of new villains coming in Batman. We've got, is Flatline a villain? I'm not really sure. We've had Cheer and all those guys. Oh. I would say this is the best new villain since I saw the Judge in Nightwing, who I thought was awesome.
I loved the Judge in Nightwing. Story structure wise, I think it could have been a little bit better, but the Judge was an incredible villain, and he's up there on that level. He deserves more praise and more recognition than he's getting.
All right, so those are the ones. I'm not recommending Batman Catwoman. I'm not recommending Nightwing, but I am highly recommending Catwoman. I think a lot of people enjoyed that one.
Yeah, and if you haven't been reading it, catch up for sure.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts on Secret Files Clownhunter? Did you get to read that one?
I did. I'm actually in the process of writing a review, and I'm terrible and didn't get it posted last night because I was tired. There are a lot of people that seem to like this book right now. I am not one of those people. I took some issues with it. Narratively, it's fine. I think whether you like this book will depend heavily on how much you like or dislike Clownhunter. I don't see him as a redeemable character.
I don't see why Batman would ever give him the time of day and not put him in Arkham. And that's
100%.
I was like, I'm signing off on Clownhunter. And there's no way this would happen.
I'm wearing a Huntress shirt. So I will say Huntress is one of my favorite characters, especially if you go back to her late 80s, early 90s stories. And she definitely kills. Like in that time frame she kills, she has what I consider a justifiable reason for why she kills. And it's very much like if I don't stop this person, they're going to kill other people. So that's why I'm going to stop them permanently. With Bao here, Clownhunter, he's pretty much like, well, I'm killing people because I was bullied and I don't like bullies. And I'm like, that just makes you a villain, dude. Like, you're killing some low-level people that may not necessarily be a complete threat that they're going to murder people. You're killing people that should honestly just go to jail, and they're not going to get out. So I have that issue. Structurally, I didn't like the comic because it's like half the pages are just Bao getting the crap kicked out of him, like either at school or by jokers. Like literally half the pages are just him getting the snot beat out of him. And then there's a lot of repetition of dialogue, punchlines in this, which is a little bit of a downvote for me as well. And then my biggest issue is at the end with Red Hood. So I'm curious to see if you had issue with this, but we just finished.
That's what I'm asking.
Oh,
so I'm done with Clownhunter. It's not interesting to me.
At the very end of the issue, you've got a group of jokers that are about to kill Clownhunter, and they've got him tied up and they're beating him. And then someone comes in and like saves the day, and you're supposed to think it's Batman, and then it's revealed that it's Red Hood. And you've got Red Hood saying like, hey kid, you can't keep going at it like this. You're going to get yourself killed. I'll train you, which I'm like, all right, cool. Like this could be a good approach.
That's what people wanted. They wanted him to be Red Hood's Robin.
And if there's anyone that understands being brash and just killing a little too freely, it's Jason. And that's kind of the conclusion we got at the end of Chip Zdarsky's run of like Jason realizing, hey, maybe my approach isn't the best because even though I stop a bad guy, it does more damage outside of it. So I was like, awesome. You know what? I'm down. I'm down for how this is going. And then Jason's like, I'll train you so we can stop the Joker permanently. I'm just like, we just had a 6-issue story ending and him not going to kill people. And then the very next thing you do is I'm going to go kill this guy. Come with me. So I was not a fan. I was like, Chip Zdarsky's run is now like waste of 6 issues.
Joker to go kill Joker. We've got this Batman Catwoman and they're trying to kill Joker in 2 different timelines. It's a bit much, isn't it?
It's way too much. Everyone wants to kill Joker, and then no one will. So Well, I guess.
And that's the other problem I had. I probably should have mentioned that one during the Batman Catwoman is like, Batman doesn't kill because he knows if he kills somebody, he'll turn into a homicidal maniac.
Yeah.
He's not exactly opposed to like, oh, Joker doesn't deserve to die. He doesn't know. He just knows he can't do it. So all these times where he's like putting himself in harm's way to potentially die himself to save Joker, that doesn't feel like Batman.
No,
I think
not at all.
Sorry, champ.
Sorry, dude. Shit happens.
So that's this week in Batman. Definitely read Catwoman.
We'll see
what happens with Shadows of the Bat. We got a lot of Batman comics coming up. We're definitely going to be reviewing most of them here. We won't be able to cover them all because it's a lot.
It's a lot. And
we've also, the Batman will be coming up somewhat soon. So I would imagine maybe some trailers and stuff coming out about that project, as well as the new, is it GCPD? Is that the TV show?
I think that's what they're calling it. They might call it something else by the time it gets here. But yeah, I'm really excited for that. They're saying it's not going to be in line with Gotham Central, the book, but I feel like they're going to pull a lot of the themes from Gotham Central. And if they do, I think it's totally going to be worth it.
Absolutely. It's a good time to be a Batman fan.
100%. Just, ignore half of it.
Absolutely.